because in the charge, the intent is placed in 1973 against that charge. You have to prove you didn't intend to do what they're charging you with. Think you could ever prove you didn't intend to run a red light? It's impossible. You can't prove a negative. And so this is what they have done in the system. Why do you not go to court? Because that's not your court. They took the court out, your court out in 73. They took what is called the innocent plea out. You remember you used to hear this all the time. You're innocent until proven guilty. And you don't hear that anymore. You're guilty, not guilty, or nolo contendere. It's one of the three. The worst one in all three, the worst choice, is a not guilty. Why? You have to now prove a negative, and you can't do it. You have to prove you didn't intend to do what they're telling you. So the issue is not to ever argue with them about what they've done, what they've charged you with. Your response simply to them is, I'm going to accept that as true, and I'm going to return it to you for closure. Where's your venue and jurisdiction? I'm competent to handle my own affairs. And so what they've done is they've made it virtually impossible for you and I to go in and defend yourself. They charge you with something, and immediately you get an attorney, and what does he do? He makes you go down and fill out depositions, doesn't he? He makes you go down and fill out interrogatories. What does that do? You've just indicted yourself and convicted yourself, simply by what you say. They don't try you on what they charge you with. They try you on what you say. With those depositions, and one of the interrogatories will come up and say, one of the questions about the 13th, 14th, they put it down far enough where you don't catch on. It says, you do understand that every one of these interrogatory questions will be used as facts of the case. So you convict your own self. See, they let us do our own self. It is not their fault. They're just making the suggestion to you. And so everybody thinks that the best thing to do, boy, if you get in trouble, go to an attorney. And I've got the paper that somebody sent them, said, what you've been teaching us is exactly right. Read what this says. And it says the attorney, and it was an official deal out of the attorney's deal. The attorney's first obligation is to the court, to make sure that your client don't upset what's going on in the courtroom. And so all of it is, you get an attorney, it's death. Every time. There never has been a person put in prison that didn't have an attorney. Number one, the defending attorney in 73 started plea bargaining. That was his out in all this thing. You ever notice, any of you that's ever had, you go down, they appoint you one, and comes the day of the trial, you hadn't seen the guy from the day they appointed him until it's time to go to trial. Then all of a sudden he shows up, and he said, tell you, this is what we're going to do. I've already talked to the other attorney. See, plea bargain. You're only going to get 10 years instead of 20. And you said, well, I thought we was going to have a trial. He said, no, not going to be a trial. If you're a plea bargain, you'll only get 10 years. Otherwise, if you go to trial, a judge has assured me you're going to get 20. Well, what does that give a person? And this is the way it goes. So the plea bargaining, if you'll go back and check history, you'll see plea bargaining starting in about 1973. Nothing in the Constitution ever gave the right for anyone to plea bargain, and it didn't give even the person who was being charged the right to plea bargain. And so where did that come from? Simply because the defending attorneys had no way of doing anything for their attorneys, so that's the thing they came up with. Well, in 1980, they came up in the criminal code with the attorneys. It came up and it said both attorneys will represent both sides of the court. So you go into court and you call yourself pro se. I'm here acting as an attorney for myself. And what happens is you think you're over there being Perry Mason, and this district attorney over there is representing you. He's doing all this stuff for you. Isn't he filing all the papers in the case against you? He's representing you, and he's helping you. See? And this is the thing about firing those people. You look over at that district attorney and say, you think you're, when he starts talking, you think you're representing me, fella, you're fired. And they'll sit down. Guarantee it. Anytime, and this is, it's going all over the country, and so people that I see out in California all the time when I go out there for seminars, they're really getting into it now, and she's very bright. I mean, that lady is something else, and she name's Kitty, and she says, you don't mess with me because I got claws. And she's an Indian lady, and she is that way, and she goes and she understands this stuff so well, and so she's telling me about the guy out in California that went in, and this big district attorney was getting on to him, and he's turned and he said, "You represent me? You're fired." And the guy just sat down. You see, they know what that means. And you do not have to let anyone represent you. I'm learning a new term, and I'll have that next week, and we'll have that down, that you can go in and you stop any of the court proceedings with it. And it has to do with representation. And so the issue in all of this is that we are born as free people, and we give that away, because we want somebody else to do our thinking for us in that realm. When you let somebody keep your books for you, like a CPA, you're incompetent. You can't keep your books. You got to have somebody else doing it. If your relationship is with the Creator, what does that make a preacher? He's a third party. You think the Creator likes third parties in your relationship? See, I'm not talking against preachers. I'm just telling you that third parties are killing you. They kill you in everything you do. Always. See, what happens when you start these things like this? Most every time, everybody always organizes. Oh, we're going to have a secretary, and we're going to have this, and we're going to have this, and everybody has to give their names, because we got to let you know in case we don't go somewhere else, and we don't meet that night, and we got to let everybody know what happens now. Who's doing your thinking and who is organizing? See, I don't do that. Y'all are free to come and go as you please. If the meeting gets changed, somehow it'll get straightened out. But I'm not in here to control anyone. I am not anyone's thing. I'm your friend. That's all I want to be. I am not here to do anyone's, to do their thinking for them. And if you want to get me upset, write to me and start making me think that's what you're doing. I'll answer your questions all day long. But don't make me think that I'm running your life. I'm not. You are the one who has to start thinking and doing it. It's your problems, and you're the one in trouble. And so learn this stuff, but learn who you are. If you learn who you are, all of this stuff, all of a sudden it'll hit you one day, and you'll say, that's what's going on. And how dare you talk to me like that? It's just like Scott said. Who do you think you are? Aren't you the public servant? Well, yeah. Okay, then make like one. I'm the master. So don't you get angry with me, I'll get angry at you. See, this is what it's all about, learning to be who you are. See, and you don't keep this stuff inside of you to where you want to jump on somebody every time they say something wrong. It's your life becomes easier, because what's tearing us up is that everybody's going around telling us what to do. You realize, doesn't the government tell you to watch your next door neighbor? And if you catch him smoking pot, boy, that's bad. You call us. Well, whose business is that? If he's smoking a cigarette, does anyone go tell on him? If he's drinking a Coca-Cola, why don't you go tell him he's drinking a Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola kill you if you drink enough of them. See, all of this stuff, and what they've done is got us watching other people's lives, and ours is going to waste, and they're watching us. See, This is what they trained us to do, is to watch everybody else and mind their business, and then don't mind yours. We'll do that, because we'll get you a doctor, a lawyer, we'll get you, and I'm not saying these people are not necessary, they are, but not to the point of making them mine. They're simply fulfilling a function that they have studied all their life to do. They are necessary things. Doctors are necessary. I have never found an attorney necessary, though. That's the one individual I've never found. Why? You name me one thing that he can do for you that you can't do for yourself. And you name me one potato he grows in this country. Name me one potato that an attorney grows. One potato. I mean, what does he do other than take other people's labor? He does nothing. He don't go out and grow a garden and sell potatoes and stuff like this to make money. Where does he make his money? He steals it from people. And they've been out working, and he says, hey, for $15,000 I'll represent you. Then he takes the $15,000, you go to jail. Who's out now? You're in this little gray crowbar place. You know you don't have to work, but you're sitting there all day long, and he's in this huge, beautiful house, you know, with the magnificent swimming pools and all this. Where'd he get all that? He didn't work for it. And you can't tell me you can't make a contract with somebody else, that you need an attorney to make a contract for you. Can't you just tell somebody, hey, this is the way we're going to do? I'll pay you $10 a month for this, or I'll trade you my horse for your cow, and we'll both sign the contract. Is that so hard to do? See, we go up at the banks, and this is where you're really getting, banks are really getting to you, is that you go to the bank and you sign a promissory note. Whose promissory note's that? It's yours. Never belongs to the bank. The bank can't create credit, you do. So he takes that and he says, just sign right here. And if it's enough money, he's on this side of the table with his arm around you. Why? Because he's not only going to take your promissory note, he's going to charge you interest for your credit. And you think that's great. Oh, you're only going to charge me 15%. Thank you, banker. It's your credit. Why are you letting him charge you anything? So you walk out the door, and you leave that promissory note laying on his desk, and you just wrote him a check for the down payment. And he goes and deposits that, and takes your promissory note and puts it onto the money market. Puts a bond with it, 10 times now what it's worth. And he keeps it there in the office. Does the promissory note ever change in his office? No, it lays there on his desk. If he leaves it there, it lays there and lays there and lays there. So what happens is you cannot. What you do as soon as you sign any note is you go out and get you a UCC1, make the bank the debtor, put your promissory note on that UCC1, and put your promissory note on your down payment and on your deed of trust. If there's one involved in a house, put that on there. Why do you do that? Because you're going to lay claim to what is yours. And once you put it on there, the bank cannot do anything with your property. That's your property the instant you sign that promissory note. It's already been paid for. The Treasury issues the credit to the bank or to the Federal Reserve, which issues it to the bank. It's your property. And this all came to light in a little, and I handed out those suits in a little, the suit with two little farmers who finally caught on to what was going on. And they sued the bank. They said, all these years you've been telling us you're going to loan us money. You don't have no money. We were creating the credit, and you start charging us interest on it. That's usury. And they beat the bank. The bank had to pay them on all counts. because they tore them apart. They said, that was my promissory note, and you charged me interest on my money. Now, the bank usually puts about 10% into any deal that they've got going. And the reason they do that, because as soon as they get their 10% of that note back, they've got all their money. So then they go and sell it to somebody else for 10%. And what happens? They've made their 10% back, and then they make another 10%, and they don't have to do anything from then on. And they pass that thing around like that all the time. So I'm just telling you, this is how you protect yourself. If you stop payments on the house, there's not a thing they can do, because that house belongs to you. And a man did it and took him into court in Washington. He called me and told me, he said, funniest thing in the world. He said that judge looked at his papers and he said, told the bank's attorney, said, in order for you to get that back from him, you're going to have to buy that note from him. He has claim to that note. You're going to have to pay him $200,000. You're going to have to pay him his. You're going to have to pay him back what he wrote you the check for, down payment. He has a claim on that, and you're going to have to pay him all this money that he's paid in this house all these years. I think it was $90-something thousand. If you want that note back, if you want his house, you trying to get me to give him his house to you, you've got to do it, because he has. See, what I'm telling you, it's all done in the UCC. He had done his UCC claim on that note and everything, and the bank could not do anything with it. So the issue in all of this is, who are you? And we'll get more into the other things really intriguing. I don't know where the woman is. Anyway, she's supposed to be here. Huh? Do what? Yeah, that's Nancy. I'll let Nancy come up for just about 2 or 3 minutes, and she... Okay, you stand up, and, well, they want you in front of here. Well, they want you on the camera. All right. Whatever she wants to do, anyway. Turn the camera around.
I don't know much about this topic, just the basic information.
Yeah, that's the way you get your car back and everything else. Because once it goes into another country, it falls under that country's venue and jurisdiction. So.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing we were talking about is that, for example, you buy a car, because this was years ago.
About as much as I can, if you have specific questions about it and so forth, we can discuss it, because we've discussed the bond so many times. I can't go over everything every time. I'm sorry about that. This one question I do want to answer it. Says, how do you justify not paying a tax voted for by we the people, city of county sales tax? Did we the people vote for that? What kind of government are you talking about? Are you talking about a democracy? That is a corporate form of government. It is not we the people's government. What is we the people's government? A republic. You cannot vote to take somebody else's rights away from them. See, this is what the mix-up is. How do you have the right to vote somebody else to pay a tax? Where do you get that right? See, all you're doing now is trying to go right back to where you were. Well, I have the right to make that neighbor do what I want him to. See, and that's not where it is. We don't have the right to make anyone do what we want to do. Let them live their life, we live ours. But you don't go around voting taxes in for other people to pay, because you happen to think you want to pay them. And so anyway, But anyway, the bond, we'll talk a little bit about the bond, and then we'll answer. I don't know, I couldn't get through these questions. Anyway, it's a pile of them. But we're going to have, what is happening is that Larry is compiling a list of the questions and things and the answers to them, and he's putting them on. I think he'll put them on the. He'll be putting them on the website and so forth, and so maybe my emails will go down some, but that's what he'll do. But the bonds are simply in our system of government of what we have. Bonds, everything in this system, money system, is a promise to pay. It has nothing to do. You cannot pay anything. There's no money to pay it with. So on one side you have people creating debt, which is the corporations. The people are on the other side. We, the people, have to create the credit to offset the debt. You can, you think because a banker or a mortgage company is sitting beside you and you sign that promissory note, do you think that's what gives it legitimacy? No, your signature gives it the legitimacy. Doesn't matter who's sitting there. You can create any kind of promise to pay because you do it all day long. The promise to pay is the Federal Reserve note. You give one of those to somebody, it's a note. It's a debt note. You're simply saying, one of these days when the gold comes back, I'm going to pay you for what I'm giving you. Then the guy gets it and he gives it to another person. He says, hey, that guy there told me that when the gold comes back, he's going to pay me and then I'm going to pay you. And this is what goes on all the time. It's a promise to pay system. Yes?
Kind of in this way about debt and things that have you. A customs broker, in case anyone doesn't know, a customs broker is licensed by the Treasury Department, the U.S. Treasury, to collect duties at the port of entry for customs. It's a third party licensed by the Treasury Department, not the Irish Treasury, but the U.S. Treasury.
Yeah.
So that might be a key to collecting the tax back and what have you if they figure it out.
So what you're getting into, there's promissory notes, they're called bills of exchange, and they're called bonds. All of those are promises to pay. When you do a promissory note, aren't you promising to pay? Yeah, and you can write one yourself, and people have done it for years. They write that promissory note and they say to someone, I promise to pay you 3 years from now if you check with me between this frame and this frame within a 10-day frame. And it never gets paid because if the person says, okay, if they call up and they say, okay, it's time to pay, you say, oh, I'm going to give you another promissory note. And you take it down. All it is a promise to pay. You cannot pay anything. You discharge it. It's just a discharge. And so the bond is a method whereby you take back what they have been taking from you. By the bank doing what they're doing to you, what this offsets is the taking of the assets of the people. 1933, they're going to take your assets. And what they're getting, if you'll look around you, it's becoming more fierce. They're like a bunch of piranhas. The attorneys have become that way now. They're taking everybody's property as fast as they can get it. And so the issue is, you think that you you got this nice little egg, and you're going, you've saved up, and you can see, from the age of 70 till if I live to be 100, I can live off of this much money every month. And so you retire, you've got your house paid, your car paid, you got everything paid, and everything's going real well. All of a sudden you get this tax bill, and it says $5,000 school taxes. Your nest egg, you didn't plan for that. And so the nest egg is down 5,000. And this is what they're doing to everyone. And so the bond simply goes in and says, if this is what you want, then this is what I'm going to pay. The property tax is another animal in the fact that it's called rendering. You have to render that property for taxation at the first of the year. You can render it for a stick, anything of value. And it's what it says. You have to render that property for whatever you want to pay. And so people don't render it, do they? So about May, June, July in there, all of a sudden you get an assessment. And it says you don't need to pay this. This is just an assessment. A bill will follow. Now the contract is there. They put the amount on there. They tell you not to pay it because a bill is going to follow. Then along comes the bill, and they say, we want our money. You agreed, you contracted with us to pay this thing. And check and see when's the last time you voted for the tax assessor collector. How can anyone collect money from you that you did not place into office? And so they issue to them, when you get them, it's the same thing. You can either write them a bond, say you want a bond, you write them a bond, you send it to them. Now that document gives you the reason that you need to do the bond. Because what they're doing is they want to connect your real person, the upper and lowercase, the living soul. They want to connect it and make you agree that it's the same as this name they put on this document. Once you write the bond, it separates those two. Because you read the bond, it simply says, the natural man will pay it. He'll stand good if you can't collect it from this guy here. But you got to collect it from that straw man first. You see, and so you separate it. You say, that isn't me. You see, the thing is, you cannot be made to pay the bill for someone else. And that is somebody else. That straw man is someone else. And so the bonds came about simply for the reason it suddenly dawned on me. And 2 or 3 other people that we got together and got all this done. It dawned on us that all assets of everybody is going to be gone real quick, because it is at the point now the taxes have raised to a certain level, and you say, well, they need that to run the schools. No, they don't. We did a study, and there's that 80% of what the city does is not even necessary. 80%. You got 8 people out around the hole, 1 person digging the hole. We did a study some 5 or 6 years ago. We found out that all governments, why do they hire all these people? Because they can vote and make you pay more taxes. And they have the sweetest retirement program that you ever saw. And if theirs never goes down the drain, does it? Why? All they have to do is say, okay, we're going to up the property taxes. You see, all of this stuff, the property taxes were never put in when the country started. So the bond is the way you take care of it. It is lawful as it can be. They don't like them because they've found out you caught on to the game. And so, yes.
I just want to reiterate, I used your information recently here, and they do work. They're very effective. Lawyers try to intimidate you and say that you're not possible. The judges speaking on the question as to how did you know about this? Where did you find out? Once you tell them, it is documented, and they can't do anything about it.
No. They have no power over you.
It's your word.
They only have power over what you let them have. You be in my court again in 10 days. I ain't coming back to your court. And that's all you say. When one of them writes me, I just write them back. I don't, they put out a motion or put out an order. I just write them a letter. I don't know who you are. You have no business writing to me. I didn't get you into this. You've got to be a third party, and you butt out of my business. And you sign it and send it back to them. You say, well, they'll come in. No, they won't. You just told them, I'm not going to put up with whatever you're doing. I know who I am. And you're not going to trick me anymore. And so next time we will get into we're really getting into the car thing, and tell you exactly why they can do what they do or why they do what they do. And this is why this became very interesting when I was talking to Nancy, is that the cars have to be taken away from them. See, when they took in this